Hi Flosstube, my name is Nitya, and this is my channel, Daybreak Stitchery, my Flosstube channel. This is where I talk about cross-stitch, I show some of the things that I've been working on, and I get a chance to connect with fellow cross-stitchers, which I've really been enjoying the past few months. As always, I'm super grateful to the Flosstube community. This has been something really good for me to help me balance work and my interests. So thank you, Flosstubers. I'm really enjoying this. This is my 5th video, and I have done so many things in February. I've done worked on some old things, started a bunch of new things. I have projects to share. So let's get started. I thought I would start with actually Michelle from Michelle Bendy Stitchy. She, in one of her recent videos, she talked about how it would be fun if Flosstubers picked out an old, fully finished object, an FFO, and just shared it and talked about it. So that's what I'm going to do to start out today. This is actually an old project from several years ago, and you might recognize it. It's really easy to recognize. It's a Stitcherovia pattern by Stitcherovia is the line by line from Emma Congdon. And she has a shop on Etsy. I'll link everything I share today. I'm going to link below. So I'll put links to everything, the patterns and other things that I reference to. And it says, "Life is a beautiful ride." And I'm drawn to patterns with bicycles on them because my husband enjoys cycling, and he's a Chicago historian, and he runs a historical bike tour company here. So I stitch bicycles. I enjoy stitching bicycles with him in mind. So this is beautiful. The things that are characteristic of Stitcherovia patterns are she's always doing fun things with fonts like this. She uses lots of different gradients of color, like really bright colors. I love that. You can probably notice this is with DMC. I think it's on like 14 or 16 count. It looks like oatmeal maybe because it's got like spots on it. See that? How it's kind of patchy? And I bet you anything this is DMC like 350 or 351, like that coral shade. For some reason I have a whole bunch of those. I think I'm just drawn to that color. I have so many. But I love it, and this was a really fun, easy stitch to do, I remember. And it's been a few years now since I picked up a Stitcherovia pattern, but I'd like to do that. Oh, and this is a good chance for me to share about Carolina S. She's a Flosstuber, and I just started watching her recently. She's been on Flosstube for a while, and she did, let me make sure I have her name right. Yes, Carolina S. She's doing some beautiful Stitcherovia patterns. I will link her recent video below where she shares some. Emma Congdon did just, she has a book coming out recently, and then she has an older one too where she has 2 pattern books out of little patterns kind of like this, about like this size. There's smaller patterns, I think. So Carolina S is stitching a couple, and they're really, really beautiful. You got to check hers out. And the other reason why, first of all, I enjoyed her Flosstube video, but also I noticed that she recorded some of her, she must be a Spanish speaker. She has some Flosstube videos in Spanish, and I've always wanted to learn Spanish. And so I think I'm going to add that to my playlist. Just put some of hers in the rotation. So I'm excited to do that. So Carolina S, I will link her Flosstube below. Okay, I think we're going to start with some whips today, works in progress. I, like many Flosstubers and many of you cross-stitchers, started doing the whip go, which is work in progress bingo, which is where you set up a bingo grid. It's just kind of a 5x5 chart, and then you set up goals for yourself. And the organizer, who is Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff, she calls 2 numbers a month, and then you try to do those 2 goals. So for this month, February was 20 and 4. So I had to stitch on my Narnia pattern by Jan Hicks for 5 days. And then I had to, what was the other one for? Oh, Forests of Sumatra by Ink Circles. I had to spend 5 days working on that. And by days, we're talking about Usually it's evenings after work. Some days it might be like an hour. Some days it might be 2 hours. If it's like a Friday and we're not doing anything, which is usual, it might be like a couple more hours. So basically 5 days of contact with the project. So I'm going to start with Forests of Sumatra. Isn't it looking so pretty? So I'm using 4 different, I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm going to like look at my notes so much because I have so many things I'm doing. I'm using 4 different shades of sulky threads on this. I know this one is Forever Green. Listen to these names. Forever Green. This one is Forest Floor. How perfect for Forests of Sumatra. This one here with like a little bit shades of like tan in there. That one is Moss Medley. And then I have a 4th one that I haven't tried yet, which is a lime green. And I thought that would be great too, because it reminded me of, in the spring when the first leaves start coming out, how they're that bright green, that bright, fresh green. So I think I'm going to do some motifs in that lime green too. So I'm really liking this. WIPGO, this is the reason why WIPGO is actually really helpful, I think, because I wouldn't have picked this up. But because I wrote it down as a goal in my WIPGO, I did, and I was really grateful. I'll show you what I had done originally. Like before I picked it up this month, I had like this much done. So this month I was able to do all of this. I finished that first tree, and then I put a few medallions on it. And I will show you, bear with me a sec. I will show you what it looks like. This is an ink circles pattern. It's going to look like this. So I did the middle tree and then like a couple of these medallions up above it. So there's a lot more to go. But this is based on this. So Ink Circles is, I think it's Tracy Horner is the designer. And she did this pattern based on, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. These old textiles from Indonesia. And I just love that. I thought that was so beautiful. And so she made a pattern that was based on that. And that's what this is. It comes from a line. There's dragons of Sumatra. And I think, squirrels, of course, squirrels of Sumatra. And then I wanted to show you too, these are the sulky colors that I'm using. So I'll hold it up once more. I'm real happy with how it's turning out. This is 40 count mallow. Sulky has really good cover. I'm pretty happy with this coverage on that. There's no fabric showing through or anything like that. Really nice coverage. It's kind of a very muted, slightly off-white kind of beigey color, very neutral color. It's looking great. I'm very happy with it. And the sulky threads, 40 count mallow. So Forests of Sumatra. That was 5 days that I worked on that, 5 contact days. My second WIPGO was another one. I was so happy that I put this down as a WIPGO goal. So this is Narnia by Jan Hicks. And I'll hold it up a little closer so you can see some of the motifs. Isn't it so pretty? This is on 38, either 37 or 38 count. I forget which one it is, by Access Commodities. The color is Heron Gray. And the threads are by Mrs. Sedas. This colorway is called Oxide, which is yellows and greens. And I love it because you get all different shades of yellows and greens. And let me try to hold it up a little bit closer so you can see. So see that? You get these bright, bright, sunny yellows. You get where the yellow mixes with green, it gets a little brown. You get different greens, like you get a mint green, you get a more bright green, you get deeper greens. So all of that just from mixing these 2 colors in one skein. I love it. I think this is so beautiful. It's called Narnia. So this was Jan Hicks Creates. I will link it below. And she called it Narnia because she designed it based on a wardrobe. I think that's what it was. It said on her website. There was a wooden wardrobe that she saw in Austin, and she designed this pattern based on the carvings that were in there. So there's a picture of the wardrobe on her website. When you click the link on the pattern that I'll share, you can take a look at that too. But isn't that just so pretty? And my goal was to get all the way across in that 5 days. So I was happy to do that. This is about a quarter of the way through. So the next time, I don't think I'm at both forests and Narnia. I don't think I'm going to pick up again next month because I have too many other things I'm doing. But I'm hoping that later this year when I pick it up, I'd like to have the same goal. Now that I know, I basically in 5 days, probably more like 6 days, because this is what I had done originally. I had this much done, like that much done. So all of this, basically from the bird on, I added during 5 days. But that's quite a bit, I feel like, in 5 days of stitching. So I know now that I know how far I can get in just a short amount of time, I am more tempted to pick this up. And that I don't know if I can convey enough how happy this bright yellow is. You're seeing it's probably too dark here, but the brightest yellow that's there, it's like almost orangey, but not quite. I just love it. It's so happy and sunny. It makes me happy to stitch this, really. It does. So that's Jan Hicks, Narnia. Okay, I have one more work in progress, which is an old project that I made progress on this month. And that is by Modern Folk Embroidery. And it's the Stitch Along. It's the 2021 Stitch Along. And so every month there's a new piece of it that comes out. I'm going to fold it up so I can get it ready for you. And let me tell you, I was hesitant to get started on this month because it's a lot of, each month there are a lot of stitches. Here's what it looks like. It turned out kind of pretty. It took me this month's stitching to realize that I really love this because I've been doubtful the whole time. I've been doubtful of my fabric. I've been doubtful of the colors I picked. This is 25 count Ash Rose Lugana. Let me center it. There we go. Ash Rose Lugana. I am using Sulky. The green is French green. The gray is smoky gray. And what I love, that's what's actually making me love, because look at all the negative stitching. I really love how that looks. And that gray has kind of purpley tones to it. So it feels sort of purpley gray when you look at it. And like I said, January, when I finished the January part, I was happy to have done it. But I wasn't excited in February to take it. I felt intimidated to pick it up and stitch it again because January's piece had so many stitches in it. I think that's what it was. I didn't realize how it took me about 15 days of contact to do January's piece. And then February this month, about 10 days of contact time on it. So I didn't start it till maybe February 12th. I put it off for a little bit of time, but now that I can see how it's going, and look at how small and cute it is. So like, this is my hand. So it's only the length of my hand. It's tiny. And the March part is going to mimic a lot of what, so this is January. And then let me get over there. This is February. So right over here is where March is going to go. And it's going to look a lot like January's piece. It's going to have like that octagon with a motif. I think it's going to be a bouquet. The picture says it's a bouquet. So now that I know how tiny it's going to be, I'm in love with it even more. I think it's dainty. It's very dainty. It's not going to be very wide. So it's cute. It's not the usual colors I stitch with things in my house. It's not like I stitch brightly colored things or more like muted tone. Our living room has like dark brown and dark blue and maroon, those kinds of colors. So I don't usually pick these sorts of colors, but I think it's working. I can say I'm excited about March's piece now. So I'm really going to try hard to keep up with that stitch along. I hope I can. Next month, I'm anticipating another 15-day month, I think, of stitching on that one. So those were my works in progress. I feel pretty good about them. Progress is good. I'm not close to finishing anything yet, but that's okay. Let's talk about another category. So I've split out another category because I've been thinking of creating a cross-stitch journal. And that's going to be just a little book I make that has little stitched items, maybe a little bits of journaling. And then I'd like to put some watercolors in there too. I'm not an artist. But I've been kind of on and off practicing watercolor just based on tutorials on YouTube for this summer. It'll be 2 years. So I can do some very basic things with watercolor, but I'd like to incorporate that into a journal too. So I've stitched some tiny things this month to potentially put into a journal. I like the idea of journals anyway. And then again, Michelle, who is Michelle Bendy Stitchy, she's doing a really nice cross stitch journal, and she's doing some interesting things with hers. I'd like to find more floss tubers who are also journaling because I'm just curious about it. I want to see what they're doing. So if anybody knows of anyone, let me know. I'm curious about that. All right, so my first small thing, look at how cute this little thing is. This is by Primitive Hair. It's a freebie, and it's a bigger pattern than this. I don't remember everything that's on it. There's a phrase, it's called Love Never Fails, and it's got just one hand with the heart, and then it's got some other motifs on it. So I took the one hand with the heart, I stitched it with brown. I had a mixed bag from Silks for You. I ordered one of their mixed bags over the holidays when they had a sale, and it came with all sorts of pretty colors. And there was a variegated brown in there that I used for this. And then also like a variegated red orange that I used for the hearts. And I took the one hand and I stitched the mirror image of it. So it's the same pattern used twice. And I put the heart, everything's the same. It's a mirror image. So I like that. I was thinking of doing, because it's February, maybe sort of like a little love themed page, or I don't know, like a February themed page, something with like hearts being the repeated motif. So I got this. This is 32, is it? 32 count navy Belfast linen. It's a tiny thing, tiny fabric. So I'm going to stitch other little things on it and then just cut them up and use that. And then I have a couple more things related to, I'm thinking of like the layout of the same page with the heart motifs. So this is another little tiny thing. This is also a freebie from Stone Street Stitchworks. It's Salma who designs for them, and she does a lot of beautiful things. I picked up a Quaker wreath pattern from her that I'm excited to do. And this is a freebie that she put on her Instagram page, and I'll link it's on her website too. I'll link it, just like everything else. This lovely blue, see, it looks more muted on the screen. And even when I look at it myself here, it does look a little bit more muted. The actual color, do I have it? It's somewhere in all this stuff here. It's very bright. When you look at it, it's an electric blue, very bright. It was from Silks for You. And I didn't know what to do with it because, so I had, over the holidays, I did order some things from Silks for You. And the color, it's my fault, I think, because first of all, I used Silks for You. I used your page on Etsy when really I should have used the web page, because Etsy, anytime there's a vendor on Etsy now, I have to be really good about it. Michelle from Bendy Stitchy mentioned this too. Anytime you're making a purchase on Etsy, it's good to double check to see if the vendor, the creator, designer, vendor has their own website where they sell items, because Etsy takes such a big chunk out of what they, what's sold on their website. And then also, the descriptions are sometimes not as informative. So I bought some silks from Silks for You on Etsy, and either I didn't read the descriptions, or I was only relying on the photos, and the photos are not accurate. What you get from Silks for You, what arrived, was very different than what I thought I was getting. I think that's what happened. I ordered them on Etsy, and then later on, when I visited the website, in the narrative, I think it's Jo from Silks for You, she provided some descriptions of what the color is going to resemble. So for example, I don't have it here, but in my last video, I had a little squirrel from Gazette 94, a Gazette 94 motif, Quaker motif that I had done that was the Silks for You that had like red and sort of like a dark brown color. And on the website, she does describe that it's actually a red and black that's mixed, and that the tones are going to look a little bit different. So you can't rely, if you're looking at Silks for You, beautiful silks, beautiful quality, but you can't rely on the photos on Etsy or on the website. You have to go to the website and look for the descriptions for that. Anyway, pretty pattern by Stone Street Stitchworks. And it's a heart, so I'm going to incorporate it into whatever I do with this February page. Really easy. Some nights I'm just so tired and my eyes are tired because a lot of I'm a teacher and a lot of my students are still virtual. They're opting to be virtual. So I'm just on the screen a lot. And then like my hobby is also kind of taxing on my eyes. So some nights you just want something quick and easy to do. So that's what's happening here. And then I did a couple little watercolory things. This little vase with oranges and then another little heart here. This vase both are based on tutorials. So, I mean, do not be fooled. I have very little like knowledge of things that I could just create on my own. These were tutorials that had like someone demoing, walking you through it. So if you want to start watercolor, there are a lot of resources out there. Don't feel like you can't do it. The vase and the oranges, that was a tutorial by Eugenia Sardago. And she goes by Nia Ni on YouTube. She's a wonderful watercolor artist to learn from, but also just to listen to. Do you know how some floss tubers and also YouTubers, they just have kind of a very comforting voice? Eugenia's voice is like that. So even if you're not a watercolorist, she's very pleasant to watch and listen to. And she has demos where the camera is on her paper so you can see what she's painting. I recommend it. I will link it below. And then this heart was a tutorial by Sarah Cray, who's the woman behind Let's Make Art, which is another watercolor kind of YouTube tutorial site. And so this is based on one of her tutorials. So I'm going to snip these up and then somehow incorporate them into whatever journal page I create. All that stuff will go together. I did one more small thing for a cross-stitch journal, and you might recognize it. Here's the pattern. And, this was, before I get into this real quick, this was on Wedgwood is the color, this pale blue. I don't remember what count. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. This is the Black Lives Matter pincushion. It is by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I think probably a lot of people have seen Jacob from Modern Folk Embroidery. He did a video recently where he released this as a free pattern. So actually, there are two motifs because it's two sides of a pincushion. And then there's a border that goes around to the side of the pincushion that says Black Lives Matter. And I've just done the one motif from this. First of all, look at how beautiful that black stitching is. This is just good old DMC 310, everybody. My new buddy. I love it. I'm going to do a thing anyway, we'll get to that. There's a thing I'm going to do next month with black, but isn't this pretty? This fabric, I have no idea what it is. It kind of looks like a mocha dye because it's got a little bit of marbling in it. It came in a grab bag from 123 Stitch. I check their clearance all the time, and sometimes they have grab bags where they put scraps of fabric, about 8 pieces in a little plastic bag, and they sell that. So for like $3.99, you get like 8 scraps. So this came from that. I thought it was a good contrast for this. So Jacob, Modern Folk Embroidery, Black Lives Matter pincushion. He said something really important when he was giving his reaction to the Capitol, the attacks on the U.S. Capitol, and just his thoughts on everything, all the things going on now. And he said that it's not enough. Basically, what his idea was, it's not enough to stitch and be concerned about Black Lives Matter. We actually need to get involved. We do, and he's right. Donating is okay, but getting involved, like volunteering, putting yourself out there is even better. So I did one, and I'm going to hopefully do both. I donated to an organization in Chicago that's called My Block, My Hood, My City. And they're located on the south side of Chicago, which is predominantly Black. And they do a lot of great things. They get volunteers together to shovel driveways during our blizzards, to do neighborhood beautification projects. They have projects for youth to take them around the city and show them different things. So they do a lot. It's run by Jamal Cole, who's an awesome individual. He was a keynote speaker at an event where I took students. So very inspirational man. And it's really important for us in Chicago residents to get involved, I think, because we live in a city that is historically not been good to Black people. There's been discrimination. There's been a deliberate limiting of they're limiting access to opportunities is exactly what I would describe it as. So for example, and this is something that's been going on for decades in Chicago. So for example, it would have been for a long time very hard for a Black family to get a home loan, and almost impossible to get a home loan in a neighborhood that was predominantly white. If a new school was going to be built, then for decades it would be built in a white neighborhood instead of a Black neighborhood that really needs access to resources. If there's money going to neighborhood beautification, it's probably going to a white neighborhood and not to a Black neighborhood. So this kind of thing has been rolling and rolling for decades. So we all live here now, and we all kind of play a role in equalizing that. You know what I mean? Recognizing that it's a thing and then getting involved. So I signed up to be a volunteer at My Block, My Hood, My City. They do about 2 volunteer things a month. So I'm going to see what comes up. I'd like to get involved. If not during the school year, then definitely this summer. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about like the activism that comes with this pincushion pattern. I like the idea of not just stitching and being concerned. I think we do need to get involved. So this is big thank you to Jacob for getting us thinking about this, and not just thinking, but doing too. I'm excited about that. And I'll keep so what I want, for the journal page, this is going to go on a journal page. I want to put this in. I want to write about my experience when I eventually volunteer. And then I'm also going to put quotes from this fantastic book. So you want to talk about race. And this is by Ijeoma Oluo. And this book is so fantastic. It is so amazing. It's for, I'm not Black, but I would like to understand, right? And I think that's where a lot of us who aren't Black, we're there, right? We want to understand, and we want to learn more, and we want to know what we can do. But the burden of that shouldn't be on our Black friends and colleagues, right? To explain to us how we're being discriminatory. That's our work to do, to figure it out. First of all, because it's not their responsibility. But second of all, that could be really traumatic to try to ask someone to explain, tell me about race, go. It's just asking a lot of a person. So how do you do, like, if you're someone like me who's not Black, but who wants to learn and understand, what do you do? Well, you find voices who are ready to talk about it, who are willing to talk about it, and who want to be heard, and then you listen. So that's what this book is about. And Ijeoma, what's great about this, she just breaks down everyday little things while she's with friends, while she's at work, even in her own family. Her mom's white. Little things, these like little microaggressions that people have been talking about, these little things that are discriminatory that people just don't think about. I put one of my fall leaves in that book. I gather so many fall leaves in the fall and I stick them everywhere so they show up. So it's really, really insightful. I keep this like basically on the ottoman in the living room near me, and I just grab it and read from it. And it gives you a lot to think. It's very informative. And also I think it encourages us to be reflective about what we do and say, and how, that impacts other people too. So I'm going to journal some things from this on the page too. And I recommend it. Okay. I want to check my notes real quick and just make sure I'm not missing something. Oh, I do also I will try to put a picture of it in, but Stone Street Stitchworks, which is where I got this freebie, They have another freebie. It's Salma's page. She has another freebie where it's this beautiful floral bouquet. And I think I want to stitch it in Mrs. Sedas. So I had ordered over the holidays some silks from Mrs. Sedas. And she threw in this little rouge, which I'm totally in love with this rouge color. Let's see, like there. It's like a maroon burgundy. And I want to stitch that freebie floral piece. It's just a little thing from Stone Street. And I want to put something else on my Black Lives Matter page and do another donation service thing with that too. And because it's floral, I was thinking, I was reading about a group. It's an artist, Brianna Harlan. She's out of Louisville, Kentucky. And she's doing a thing there and in several other cities, but not in Chicago yet, where she calls it Black Love Blooms. I thought that would be great to go with a floral motif. I'm going to stitch that on. But she organizes volunteers to grow and donate flowers, but also to deliver flowers and hand out flowers just to random strangers in Black communities in Louisville. And she also passes on some positive messaging because the point of her message is that Black lives always mattered. Like you always mattered. You were always important, not just since it became a thing that people talked about. And so it's just a way for her to spread kind of positivity and joy amongst Black communities. So for right now, when I stitch those flowers, I'm going to donate there. But I also want to think of some kind of service to do related to that too. So I have to think on that. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. So I think it was Michelle Bendy Stitchy who told me once to look up craftivism. It's the idea of connecting activism and stitching. I kind of I like it. I'm on board. I want to do it. So that's all happening. Okay. Now we've got a bit of a doozy here because I started all sorts and I'm going to tell you all about it. So first up, this was, let me fold it so I can hold it up next to me. This is the February installment of the Linens and Things Mystery Stitch Along from this year, 2021. So Linens and Things is an online cross-stitch supply vendor. And they put out a very generous, free annual stitch along. Every year. They've been doing it for several years. So this is 2021. The theme is Talavera. Talavera is a style of pottery from Mexico and then also from a town called Talavera in Spain. So if you see it, I don't know if I'll be able to put a picture into the video, but I'll try. But if you Google Talavera, and it's immediately recognizable. I mean, we have many Mexican communities here in Chicago, so we're used to seeing this kind of thing. So it's a very recognizable style of pottery. And this stitch along, I actually I wasn't excited about it. Last month it started, the first installment, and I didn't do much with it. I think my whip go goal that month was to put 50 stitches into it. And it wasn't exciting because the pattern is going to be something that looks like a shelf. And then it's going to have tiles on it, 3 tiles, and then maybe more tiles on the bottom. It's an open space right now, so we can't tell. The shelf, stitching it was just some lines, so that didn't seem very exciting. And then when I saw the pattern for this, I have to admit I wasn't super excited about that either. I wonder if I can you can see it. It's a deeper kind of aqua color. This is Riviera Aqua Linen, 28 count by, I don't know if it's Wichelt. I've heard people pronounce it Wichelt. To me, it looks like a German name, Wickelt maybe, but I don't know how to pronounce it. But we'll go for right now with Wichelt because I've heard several Flosstubers say that. But it's 28 count Riviera Aqua Linen. And I wasn't excited about the motif. And there's a Facebook page where everybody can share what they're doing. And I was looking, I said, these are nice, but I don't know. I wasn't convinced to start it. And then someone in the group shared hers, and she had stitched it on a bright, vibrant, beautiful red fabric. It was probably like a red Ada, I think. And she had chose, I couldn't even remember what color she chose, but that fabric alone, I thought, okay, we have to go with the vibrancy of this style of pottery. And, I don't choose bright fabrics. This is all I had. So that's what I took out. And I just picked out, some other, I Googled Talavera, and there's lots of blues, like a cobalt blue, some shades of blue, lighter blues, navier blues, oranges, greens, bright colors. So I had this orange DMC. It's maybe like a 900 or 700. I don't remember. I'll look it up. Pale yellow, pale blue, navy blue, and then like a little bit more golden orange in the middle is a sulky, but I won't be using that again because it's too tight. The sulky threads are really, really thick and they don't come apart. It's not a strand that can come apart and separate. So you just have to be careful what you stitch it on. It worked fine on my Forests of Sumatra. On this, I'm doing 1/1 on this, and it's just too tight. It's not going to work. But everything else is DMC 1 strand over 1. I'm liking it now. I've actually seen some people fill in, like in this, see all this background here? People are filling that in. I may do that or I may not do it. I'm not sure. I'm finally in love with it again. So I think I'm going to do it. This month's piece just came out today. Excuse me a sec here. And it's beautiful. So like that shelf, those lines for the shelf, there's actually a border that fills in on the shelf. So I'm going to take that border, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it as if it's a long tile right here. So I will underneath it right here. So I'm going to the way that the pattern is set up, there are clearly going to be at least 6 tiles and maybe 8. So I'm going to start by doing 3 tiles this way. I'm not going to do the shelf. I'm going to do 1 long tile, which is going to be based on that border. And then I will do the other 3 tiles here. And then if there happens to, there's kind of a questionable space at the bottom. And if that happens to be 2 more tiles, making it 8 tiles, then there will be room to add them in here. So that's where I'm going with it. I started where's it at? I started doing 2/1 over here, and it was too thick. So this is being pulled out. Over here, I switched it to 1/1, and it went much better. So, hey, sometimes it's a fabric choice that makes all the difference. So that gave me some confidence. I'm going to get some brighter fabrics now and not just the usual dark or neutral kind of tones. Okay, that was one new start. Next new start is this one, and it is called Romati, and it is by Lena cross stitch. This is on, is it 25? It's either 25 or 32 count Lugana by Zweigart. It's 20. I didn't know this, but there are different names for the Zweigart fabrics. There are different names for the different counts. So 25 count is technically that's the Lugana. 32 count is Murano. I think one of them is called Bellana maybe, but I don't remember which count it is. Anyway, it's like they have model names for their fabrics. But I think what happens is that people just end up calling everything Lugana, which is fine. So 25 count. Let me see how close I can get this. It's so pretty, right? It's not going to be very clear, I think. My video stuff is not very great quality, but. So it's a tiles pattern from Lena Cross Stitch. So right here is going to be the center. So imagine this same pattern going all the way around here. So this will be a tile, and then there are other tiles. I'm going to stitch it monochromatic, and it's too bad my camera won't show this very clearly. That thread is Mrs. Seda. So a lot of my new starts are because my threads that I ordered in December are finally coming. We've had postal delays, so I'm able to start some new things. So this is Hydrangea color tone, colorway in Mrs. Seda's, and it's beautiful. It's unbelievably beautiful. I mean, she has captured hydrangea flowers. It's this pale blue and then a slightly brighter but also pale purple. And it's variegated throughout. And so I just I didn't know what to do. When I got it, I wasn't sure what I wanted to stitch with it. So I just started laying it over fabrics that I had. And then this Lena cross stitch pattern I got some time ago. She has really good sales on Etsy, so you can get things for like 50% off. So this pattern was only like $3.50, I think, and it's got lots of tiles in it. So that's what I went with. And I can see when I'm looking at it here, like I see a lot of purple and pale blue, but it's just not coming through. Maybe I'll photograph it and put it on my Instagram page, and maybe it'll come out a little bit better. We'll see if I can find the right lighting. But I'm loving this. I'm doing just 1/1. That's the nice thing about those silk hanks, the big hanks from Silks for You, and also Mrs. Sadus, who I love her silk so much. They're going to last a long time. They're going to last a really long time, especially if you're doing 1/1 like this. You'll just have I'll be able to do multiple projects, I think, with that, which is nice. So that's Romati. I looked up Romati, and all I could just to see like what language is it and what does it mean. All I found was that there is a Slovenian word that means Romati, and it could mean pilgrim. It could mean to roam or to wander. It could be a wanderer too. And I love that because my husband and I love to travel. So I like the idea of that. So it was an unintentionally good match. Romati tiles and I. Okay. My next new start was a binge purchase. I was having a very emotional weekend a few weekends ago, and I just up and bought the pattern for Pilgrim, which is a long dog sampler pattern. And I'm so happy with it. So Pilgrim is kind of a crazy pattern. It's got lots and lots of different animals in it. It's got like birds with hats. It's got a thing where there's like a horse up on its hind legs and it's facing a seahorse. It's just very unexpected and surprising. And I chose it because I wanted to do something monochromatic. So here, let me hold it up properly. I've just done a little bit so far. The whole top of it is a village, and then all the animals fill up the rest of it. It's a really big pattern. Animals fill up the rest of it. So this whole, here, let me expand it out so you can see. So basically this whole top will be a village skyline. And then let me even it up. There we go. A village skyline that stretches all the way across the top. And then all the way down will just be filled with all sorts of interesting borders and then animals, weird animals all over it. I love it. I'm doing it on 36 count linen. It's Edinburgh linen flax, which is one of my go-tos. Okay, so 36 count is so easy to stitch on. It is probably like the easiest thing to stitch on. The coverage is not perfect. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I mean, when I look at it, I get nitpicky. I can see little bits of fabric here and there in this solid part. So the coverage is not as tight and perfect as I like, but it just makes for an easy stitch because you don't have to tug. You don't have to like work at tugging the thread through. It just easily glides through. Even in something like this, where all the stitches are packed like that, there's no struggle. It's easy stitching. So I just love it. This is DMC 935. It's dark avocado green. And I'm just in love with this. This sort of color is a little bit more with what goes with our home. We have these kinds of dark tones in our home. So I can't wait to just, this is an enjoyable evening stitch. And I've only worked on this for probably, I think I picked it up like 3 times this month. So it's a quick stitch. I'm going to try, I think my plan is I'm going to try to make it across the top just to make sure. I always have a worry that I've miscounted fabric. So I want to make sure I have enough. And then I'll work my way down. Okay. So the next new start is another one I'm so super excited about. So it's actually another linens and threads mysteries. I wonder if I said linens and things earlier. I might have said that. Linens and Things was like a, I don't even know if it's still around. It's like a home goods chain store around here. If I did, I meant to say Linens and Threads. Sorry about that. So Linens and Threads, that's that Talavera sampler I did. So they have they have stitch alongs that they've done the past several years, and they're for the most part they're available. What they start to do is they start to archive some of the older ones. So it's good to get on their mailing list, because I got on their mailing list in maybe November or December. And then in December, they sent a message out that said, hey, everybody, we're going to be archiving. I think it was the 2018 sampler. Like, go download all the files right now, because we're going to archive it, and then it'll only be available for sale on the website. So now this following pattern you can get still, but it's not a free stitch along pattern anymore. It's been moved to their store. So this is the 2018 Linens and Threads stitch along. I love this so much. Okay, it doesn't look like much right now. Can I get any closer? So the theme for this 2018 year was like a fantasy theme. So it's got sort of medieval fantasy kind of look to it. So it's got dragons, it's got a big sun with a face on it, it's got mermaids, I think it's got kind of a couple, like a jester kind of figure on it. It's really beautiful. And what this is it's the back. It doesn't look like much now. It's the back of a dragon. This is the back part of a dragon. You can see its foot here, 2 feet here. And then the scales, this little patchy bit is the scales. And then his tail is wound up, like this loop is his tail. And there are 3 dragons. So this 2018 Linens and Threads sampler was a band sampler. So every month they released a band to add on to it. And I don't know if I'm going to stitch all of the bands from it, but I'm going to pick my favorites and definitely create them. This is a 32 count Zweigart Murano. And I'm stitching it with 1 thread over 1. And I love how tiny and dainty it is. Let me see if I can get in closer. It's hard to see. My screen is a little bit blurry, I think. I'll put a picture up on Instagram. I love it so much. This is another of my Mrs. Sedas that finally came. And it's called Darling Bleu. So she's got 2. My next one I'm going to show you is in her Darling color, which is aqua blue. It's a bright kind of green blue. And this Darling Bleu is more, it's got bits, speckles of that aqua color, aqua green, but it's mostly this turquoise blue. And it's beautiful. And it kind of reminded me of something sort of fantastical. So I thought this would be a great fit. This is vintage brown, I think is the color of the fabric. I got it on a shop on Etsy. I'm not going to remember the name of it, but I'll look it up. I'll look it up and share it. And yeah, I'm loving it. I love the marbled look of the fabric. And then I love this blue contrast over it. My husband and I both like kind of fantasy sort of things. We both, watched Game of Thrones for many years. I love dragon kind of things. So this is going to be really, really fun to stitch. I'm excited about it. I love the 32 count is a really easy 1 over 1 to stitch. It's not too small. I struggle sometimes for some reason with 28 count. Don't ask me why, because 32 count is clearly smaller, but it's just, maybe I'm just excited about the pattern too. That could be it. So very eager to keep going on this. The little small variations in color, they're just not going to come through. It almost makes it look like scales shining in the light. I just love it. This is Seda Silks. I love them so much. She's got a, again, I feel like she's one of my favorite people right now. Michelle from Michelle Bendy Stitchy. She posts a lot of videos. So like I watch them like several times a week, but she's going to be doing an auction for some Mrs. Sedas silks. Mrs. Sedas has a silk pack that oh no, this is different. Sorry. Her auction is for a different sampler that I'm thinking of. The thing I'm thinking of is Mrs. Sedas has a floss pack for Long Dog Sampler's Hoity Toity pattern, which Jan Hicks is stitching right now. And the silks look beautiful for it. And I'm not going to get them this year. I have to have some self-control. So I mean, I don't have much self-control when it comes to stitching, but I will with that. I'm going to hold off on that. That's on my list though. Okay. Next, new start. Let me make sure I didn't have something else I wanted to share with you. Oh yeah, I did have something I wanted to share with you. Actually back with Pilgrim. Sorry, everybody. My notes for this video were crazy. Look at all that. So I know I'm going to forget something, but I want to share everything. You can probably tell right away when I have these fabrics that are serged on the end like this, they probably came from 123 Stitch. I order a lot of fabrics from them because I love that they serge these ends so that they don't fray. I don't have a sewing machine, so I'm sure I could probably go. I'm actually going to see if I can go to, we have a tailor just right down the block here, and I'm going to see if he can serge some of my fabrics. Because otherwise I do like sham job of taping it up with these masking tapes, which I don't know if it's been like chemically treated or something, this Murano fabric. It's very hard to get the tape to stick on it. So then I ended up doing an even shoddier job, like just kind of whip stitching, folding in the edges and whip stitching it so that the edge wouldn't fray. So I really appreciate that at 123 Stitch, when you order fabrics from them, they serge them. And the other thing I like about 123 Stitch is that when you pull up when you click on a fabric that you run a search and you look for fabrics by count or by color, they will take the fabric color and then in the description of the fabric, they will list the same color in DMC. And that is very helpful because remember how I was talking about how the photos on Silks for You are very misleading? They're just not accurate enough. You have to read the description. Well, the same thing could happen with fabrics. So what I do before I pick up a fabric, like I know flax, I've used it before, but if it's a new fabric and I can't tell from the photo exactly what it's going to be like, I'll look at that DMC equivalent that they provide on 123 Stitch, and I'll go Google it so that I'll get a whole, and I look at Google images so that I can see, like, let's say it's this one. They said that this one was DMC 3866. So flax Edinburgh linen on 123 Stitch, they've put the equivalent as DMC 3866. So I can Google DMC 3866 and look at all the vendors that sell it. I can look at all their different pictures and just get a general idea of what I think that color is going to be. So if you have an unfamiliar fabric color, I find that really, really helpful. So DMC, or not DMC, 123 Stitch does that. I don't know if others do. I haven't noticed it. The other reason why that's helpful is sorry to go back to Pilgrim, but on Pilgrim, so this solid bit here is a sky. It's a night sky. There are little bits, I think they're like falling stars or little stars that are going to be backstitched into here. So you stitch the solid in the monochromatic color, but then you somehow have to backstitch to have it match the color of the fabric. So now I don't have to go looking for a color. On 123 Stitch's website, they've already given the equivalent to what flax is. So now I can just use that color. I mean, I could also just like match a color from my DMC floss box that I have, which is fine, but it's nice to have one that's matching. So I find that very convenient. If you shop it all at 123 Stitch, or if you live in a different country and you shop at your own stores or your own vendors, but you just are curious about the color conversion, the color equivalency, that's a really useful feature to have. I've linked 123 Stitch. I'll link it below. Okay, more new starts. So this one, again, is because my silks came from Mrs. Sadas. This is my last one that I ordered from her. And, okay, I'm just going to show it. Look at this crazy fabric. So this is Opalescent. I'll hold it back a bit too. This is Opalescent Huntress. It is a 28 count cashel linen. Cashel linen is really soft and nice to work with. 28 count. It is like a dark purple with some mottled, like slightly lighter purple, like magenta-y purple fabric. And then it's opalescent because it's got like these glittery threads that are going through. So clearly you can see that, glittery threads. So this was actually a fabric in my stash. And I never knew what I was going to do with it. I just knew I wanted to try an opalescent fabric, and this color was so vibrant. But when I saw it, when it arrived, I thought, I wonder if I could stitch, because the opalescent threads have kind of a greenish blue tone. So I've always kind of like in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, well, maybe I could stitch something with that bright, like aqua-y color. And then when I ordered my silks in December from Mrs. Sadas, Raquel at Mrs. Sadas, she's got this darling thread that's an aqua blue. So then right away in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something with that opalescent cashel huntress. So it doesn't look like much yet. What it's going to be is a heart motif. So this is kind of the bottom. Is it a heart? Yeah, it is. I think it's going to be a heart motif. It's by Autumn Lane Stitchery. And they've got some very cute things. So it's Cassandra and Aaron Houston. Aaron designs the patterns. Cassandra's husband, Aaron, designs the patterns. And then Cassandra stitches the like models for them. And they had their YouTube Flosstube channel is really fun. And I'll link below the Flosstube where they introduced this pattern. But it's called Lovebirds. It's a German folk art pattern. It reminds me a lot of, if you watch Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery, he talks about these fracture patterns, and they almost always have birds on them. It's a German folk art style. German and Swiss, I think he said. I will link. He has an article on his blog where he talks about fracture art. And so I'll link that article below. But anyway, so Aaron Houston designed a heart pattern. It's got a bird facing in and then another bird facing in, and they're inside a heart. And it's kind of a folksy sort of pattern. So doing it, trying it, liking it. It's pretty good. This it got a little bit of getting used to stitch on this. Darker fabrics I find them a little bit harder to stitch on, just a little bit. They're not impossible, but it does take, like, I don't clearly see the grid and where the spots are for putting your needle. It takes a little bit of like, what am I doing here? The opalescence isn't distracting in it. It's just the weave that's a little bit, it takes a little bit of figuring out to do. But that's going to be a fun one. And I think it'll be a quick one too. There's not much in that. It's a small pattern. Okay, well, everybody, I got on the Dreaming Girl bus this month. So I, too, am starting the Dreaming Girl Sal. I do not have much done with her yet. And just her shirt and her neck and her chin. I think it's going to be an autobiographical Dreaming Girl, so I'm going to make her look like me. And I recommend Dreaming Girl if there's anyone who wants to play around with skin tones. That's what I'm going to use her for. Because I usually tend to stay away from stitching skin tones because I don't know what colors it seems too big to try to convert like given patterns to ones that are more representative of my skin tone. But this pattern is easy enough because basically what it is the woman's face, half of it is in shadow. So half of it is one tone and the other half of it is darker tone. So because it's one part of the face is in the light and one part of the face is in the shadow out away from the light. So it's a good chance to play with skin tones. So what I did was I looked in my floss box and I started picking. Let me see if I can find the colors I need. I have all my bags just sitting out here. I basically looked for a floss color that would look like me. I started laying them on my arm and just matching skin tones. And the one that I found, here we go. Let me see if I can see the number. 3862 was a little bit on the darker side, but basically the 3860s, I think that range is going to be good. So I chose there are 4 skin tones in this pattern. Okay. There's the one in shadow, the one in light, and then there's a little bit more bits and pieces that are in a couple of different colors. The only thing is that I cannot tell. So I used two colors that were next to each other on the DMC color chart. I cannot really tell the difference between the two. When I stitch them side by side, they look the same. If I'm really carefully looking, I sort of can tell that like her chin is a little bit in shadow, but I think I need to go one more step over. So whatever color I used for this half of her face, I need to slide up two more colors in darkness to get the shadow range. So if I do that, I think it will be good. So what I'm thinking of doing is taking out this little bit I've done and try to go a little bit darker. There's a distinct, when you look at, if you search for the Dreaming Girl, the hashtag will be Dreaming Girl Sal. If you search for it on Instagram, you'll see a very distinct separation between that face, part of her face that's in shadow and then the part that's lit up. So I want to create that as well. So it's good because it's not a complicated stitch. Like this is, I'm almost done with her face, and then she has hair that comes out, that flies out to the side. It's good. It'll be easy to play around with skin tone. So I do recommend if you want to start stitching different skin tones, this is a really great pattern to play with that. The other cute thing I'm going to do, because I want it to look like me, I'm going to use, she has this wispy hair that's flying out to the side. I'm going to obviously make that my hair color, like a dark brown. And then there are patterns, like these snowflake patterns that are stitched into that hair. I'm going to make mine DMC 3024 to go with my little white hairs that are coming in. I'm embracing the white hairs, whatever. It's happening. It's a thing. So I'm going to stitch them into my Dreaming Girl so that those snowflake patterns will be distinct and noticeable, and she's embracing them too. So I'm excited about that because that part is pretty. I don't know if everybody saw that today. This is by Barbara Anna. Let me give you some information. This is by Barbara Anna Designs. Her patterns are sold on Creative Poppy. I will link it below. I'm doing mine on probably 25 count Lugana. It's a favorite. And this is a pale purple color. That felt sort of like dreamy, sleepy, dreamy color. And I don't know if everyone noticed today that there's a teaser for future installments that are coming up. It's a monthly stitch along. So, so far, the first month had her face and her hair. February had some flowers that are coming up here. And there's a teaser for how there's going to be another woman, like a second figure showing up in the pattern too. So this is as far as it goes on this side. So I'm guessing that the second character will be next to her on the other side. It looks really beautiful. She's got like a key hanging from her, and then just lots of little floral things happening. It's very pretty. It's pretty. And this is an interesting one because people are doing interesting things with it. I heard that Gary from Sunshine Stitchers is doing something, but I haven't seen yet. I've watched a bunch of their Flosstubes recently, but I haven't seen yet what he's doing with his. It's something really beautiful. With skin tones. And then Michelle from Michelle Bendy Stitchy is doing the MMIW stitch with it, which is missing. Let me get it right, guys. Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women is the acronym. And it's to bring attention to how there's increased violence against women in Indigenous communities, and there are a lot of women who've gone missing. So hers is really beautiful because she's adapted the pattern where her girl has like a hand over her face, kind of silencing the woman. So it's interesting. It's good. It's made me look up what MMIW was because I didn't know anything about that. So increasing our awareness is a good thing. Okay. What else, guys? I've got two more new starts to show you, and then I'll give you plans for next month. Hey, March has 31 days in it. So many days to stitch. I'm so excited. Okay. A couple more new things. So this is called La Conversation, the conversation. Look at that little bird. And I got to show you this. This is from a book I've had for a little while. It's, I got it used. I'm always looking for used cross-stitch books. This is a pattern book by a French designer named Hélène Le Berre. And, but it's like the Japanese edition. I got it used from like a Japanese bookshop online. So, I mean, all the text is in Japanese, but the titles and obviously like the DMC patterns are like the codes are still there. And it's really beautiful bird motifs. So the one I'm doing is called The Conversation, La Conversation. And it's these little birds chirping at each other. Isn't it cute? So I'm doing it on this, I liked all the colors. They're like yellows and teals. So I thought that once again would be a good contrast. This is also a Huntress. It's just not opalescent. So I picked up a couple of these Huntress fabrics for my stash last fall. And now I'm finally doing something with them. So I'm going to this is the bits of the first bird. And I'm going to stitch the rest of it on here too. And I love it. This is 28 count. It could be casual. It might be casual. And I'm just using DMC, the called for DMC, and I'm doing 1/1. I really like it. Most of the colors I had too. So I'm able to do a lot of it without needing to place an order, which is good. A DMC order. I'm going to hold it up one more time because I just love this little bird. And I'll show you the pattern once more too. So the bird I'm working on is this bird right here. I may change the flower colors because they're those pinks. Yeah, they'll show up on this hunt. I think it'll be okay. I'll keep it the way it is. That's been a fun one to start. I've been wanting to do, like, joining Flosstube has made me pull out. So there was a period of time when I didn't stitch. There were about 4 years when I didn't stitch. For no reason, I just got busy with work and I put it all aside. So now I'm pulling out just some old books I had been collecting, and that's really nice. Look at all the bright colors for this one. Isn't that pretty? I'm liking that a lot. I'm having trouble finding DMC 420. It's a hazelnut color. I can't find it anywhere. So we'll have to see what's going on. That must be a popular color to use in patterns. Okay, one more new start this month. This isn't going to look like much right now. It is the horse mandala, and it's by Awesome Patterns Studio, which is a shop on Etsy. And these again, kind of going back to my old cross-stitch materials. I picked up some mandala patterns from Awesome Pattern Studios. It's, okay, do you know what, like mandala patterns are like those geometric, very brightly colored. You can find them in coloring books, in lots of different artwork and paintings. And then you can cross-stitch mandalas too. And so Awesome Pattern Studios has all these animal patterns that sort of mimic the brightness and the geometric nature of mandala patterns. So this is going to be mandala, horse mandala. So that's part of the mane. So see, it gives you an idea of the brightness. It's like wisps of hair in the horse's mane coming out. So the horse is going to be like out here. The head is going to be here. It's just the head. It's just a horse's head. And it's all fully like the hair kind of wisps around, the mane kind of wisps around in front of like the neck of the horse. So it's all like these wisps like this. And it's gorgeous. It's really, really beautiful, bright colors. And I'm stitching this as a gift for a friend of mine. I have a couple of gifts today that I'm going to be talking about. This is going to be a gift for a French teacher friend of mine who is also big time into equestrian things, horse things. And she's a very sweet person, and she won an award recently, a teaching award, and I'm just so happy for her. And I'm looking for an excuse to stitch a horse, so I'm going to stitch it and give it to her. This is on scrap from the big piece of 38 count heron gray that I had left over from my Narnia piece. When I figured out what size that was going to be, I snipped it, and then this was left over. And I'm super excited to do little bits on this. I could see myself just having like maybe an hour or something on the weekend where I just put in a couple wisps. So little by little, this will get done. Oh gosh, I'm going to forget everybody what it is. Oh, it's owl gator stitches. I think is her name. Did I write it down? Owl and Gator Stitcher. I have to remember to link her below. Flosstuber. She's doing another one, which I have, but I don't know when I'm going to start it ever. It's the Mandala Giraffe, and it is beautiful. It is so, so pretty. I'll link below to the video. I just saw it recently that she's working on that. She's done a lot. Hers visibly looks like a giraffe when you look at it. But anyway, horse mandala. Well, I'm left with talking about my plans for March. And I'm super excited because I was watching a video by Abby, who goes by Abby Bella Stitch. And she is I think she's working with someone on this. She's starting a hashtag for Asian American History Month, which is in March. And the hashtag is Stitch Asia. And so stitchers are encouraged, if you're interested, to stitch Asian motifs throughout the month, to share them. You can also use the hashtags Representation Matters Sal and Diversity and Inclusion Sal when you're stitching about those. And so I have a few things I'm doing for that. Do I have anything I can show you? Yeah, I do. Oh yeah, I do actually. Something very exciting. Abby Bella Stitch, I'm going to link the video where she talks about this initiative because she does a really great job. Like, the idea of stitching I'm South Asian, and I have a pattern that's South Asian. My family's from India. So, it's a pattern I find that's culturally accurate and I feel happy about it. So I'm going to do it. But if you're stitching, like if I was going to stitch something from Japan, for example, I would, if I really loved it, I would do it. But I know I would also be kind of concerned, like, that's not my culture. Is it weird for me to stitch something from that culture, or is the thing I'm stitching culturally appropriate? So she does a good job kind of talking about that a little bit and showing lots of examples in her video of like things that are Asian. I see, now that she mentions it, I think I've seen Asian patterns, like a lot of different, like little manga patterns and kimonos, the usual like geishas or cranes or the wave, the kind of Gawa wave. So you can find, if you want to get involved, start with her video that I link. She shows lots and lots and lots and lots of examples. And then she also references Hélène, who does the Maximum Cross Stitch Power Hour. And I guess she also did a really good episode where I haven't seen it yet, where she talks about possibilities for Stitch Asia, hashtag Stitch Asia. But I want to show you what I'm doing because this is a project I've wanted to do for some time. And this is going to be the perfect time to start it. So I picked up, you have to look a lot for the books from this series because they're out of print and they're hard to find. There is a French designer, cross-stitch designer, named Véronique Enginger, and her patterns are amazing. She has designed so many motifs in her lifetime. And this book is called Balades en Asie, Walks in Asia. And I pick up a lot of French. I'm a French teacher, so I enjoy looking at French things, but what I found, so I searched for Indian cross stitch just because my family's Indian. It would be interesting. It's usually what you find is elephants with decorations on them, the Taj Mahal. That's pretty much, and then like mandala patterns too. It's very hard to find something that's specific with culture, like specific well-known cultural references, like in the Indian community. But her book, I saw this on Pinterest and then I tracked down this book. These dance motifs, like these dance poses, that is a style of Indian classical dance from South India, from like where my family is from, called Bharatanatyam. And like my sister studied it growing up and our friend Geeta studied it. And I just can't, like when I saw this, I thought, I cannot believe I'm seeing this in cross-stitch form. So I'm super excited about it. It's so, like these dance poses, like I've been to many dance programs where I've seen dancers do these poses. I just can't believe it. And then there's like religious motifs up top in Hinduism. It's unbelievable. I never in my life thought I would see this kind of stuff represented. There is, I mean, the elephant is there too. But there's just lots of beautiful stuff, like these decorated buses. Buses are decorated like this or painted with beautiful decorations. So like seeing those, I don't know, just I never thought I would see this kind of stuff in cross stitch form. So I found it originally on a Pinterest search. I tracked down what the book is, and then I'm sure, do you ever, other stitchers out there, do you just have like your white whale of your cross stitch pattern that you were just always finding yourself looking for because it's out of print or whatever, you want to find it used? Well, I finally found this one used, so I've been waiting for a chance to stitch from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch a sampler out of these motifs. And it's going to be for my friend Geetha, who grew up doing this kind of dance. She and I are about the same age. We're both in our 40s. She did an extraordinary thing 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago. As an adult, so this form of dance requires incredible strength and balance. You have to be really fit to do it. And she had been away from it, like during her adult life. She's a doctor. She's very busy all the time. And she decided to get fit, to retrain. And then she gave a dance recital as an adult, like in her 40s. And she did amazing. She was so good at it. So I want to stitch her a sampler. And she's had a very stressful year. Being a doctor is, you know how that is these days. So I think it'll be beautiful. I have a couple of those silks that came from Silks for You that are different colors than what I anticipated, but one of them is a really beautiful magenta. So I think I'm going to stitch these motifs in like that magenta, and then I have a paler pink I'm going to use. And then I want to stitch these according to like the DMC guide that's given. But I'm just going to have these little dancer motifs all over it. I'm so excited to do this for her. And I just never thought I would be able to find something like this that represents something so close to our culture. I'm really amazed by it. My husband taught, so this book is really great because it has other Asian motifs too. So it goes through Asia and has different countries. So we were flipping through it. I want to show you one. I was flipping through it with my husband because my husband, Steve, he taught English in Korea and Japan. He lived there. He lived in both places for a few years. Like we love Korean and Indian food. And here in Chicago, in the Chicago area, we have two enormous, like basically, if you imagine your supermarket, like your big chain supermarket that you normally shop at, there are two big supermarkets that are Asian, like 100% Asian food supermarkets here in Chicago. So we go there to pick up, like probably twice a year. We go to those places and stock up. Our pantry, if you walk into our food pantry here at home, it's half American canned items and then half pantry items that are like Indian, Korean, and like Thai and Japanese and things like that. So we love Asian food. And this year, 2021, 2 years ago, we had said, okay, we travel a lot. Steve and I travel a lot. And 2021 was going to be the year that we go to Indonesia. And we haven't even planned after pandemic last year. We didn't even start planning that trip, but we enjoy, he's been all over Asia. Anyway, I showed him this book and we were flipping through and talking about the motifs, and he right away paused at this one. There's a bicycle. So I'm going to probably stitch him this one too. He actually said, oh, what if you stitch a bicycle sampler? So now I kind of want to do that. And if anyone knows of a bicycle sampler that's already out there, I haven't looked yet, but I would like to do that. So anyway, this is like, I love this. I'm so excited to stitch this. I'm also going to do, this is not designed by an Asian person, but I am impressed with the accuracy, the cultural accuracy in it. So I'm going to stitch from it. I'm also going to stitch, there's a bee sampler pattern by Lila's Studio. Lila's Studio is, Lila is a designer of Asian descent. So if you're looking to stitch something by an Asian designer, to support an Asian designer, Lila's Studio is one. I'm going to do her bee Quaker, I think it's called, or bee sampler. I'm bringing back my buddy, DMC 310 for that one. It's basically black and yellow bee patterns. And then I'm also going to try, Ink Circles has a henna pattern, a henna mandala pattern. And henna is like there's a plant-based dye that you use in India to decorate the hands of women with beautiful like paisley motifs and pretty motifs. There's probably one in this book somewhere for special occasions, especially before weddings. Like it's kind of, you have a henna party with women and everybody decorates their hands. And then the plant dye leaves a beautiful reddish brown pattern on your hands. So Ink Circles has a henna mandala pattern. So I think I'd like to try that one too. It calls for a Gloriana silk, but I'm not sure if I might just use a DMC. Not sure about that. Well, February was pretty busy. Thank you if you're still here, or if you stopped by, and if you're still here, thanks for listening. This has been a really fun month of stitching, and I've got a lot going on next month too. So I'm trying to check in at the end of each month. So hope to see you again in another month. Have a good day and happy stitching, everybody.